Good evening. We're happy to have you join us here on Global TV News Express. I am Priscilla Obasi, live in Abuja, Nigeria's capital. President Bola Ahmed Tinubu has assured Nigerians that the framework for the palliative to remedy the effects of fuel subsidy removal is being worked out, assuring that the decision is in the best interest of the country, especially in guaranteeing future prosperity. President Tinubu, who received 18 governors who served with him in class of 1999 at the presidential villa, appealed for more patience from Nigerians, while the government will increase efforts, speed up the process, and ensure foolproof social security structure that would not be compromised, especially in cash transfer. Prince Adegoke has the details.
President Tinubu noted that the country will not make meaningful progress without fixing electricity, assuring that his administration will harness gas resources and explore every opportunity to ensure stable power generation and supply. The president assured the governors and Nigerians that he will work towards unity, equity, stability, and prosperity of the country. The former governors urged the president to pursue his vision for a greater Nigeria with vigor, steadfastness, and resilience, trusting their support for development policies and promising to provide the necessary social structure for actualization.
As you all know, every one of us that is here was a governor from 1999. So we'd like to say we are the solid foundation which this fourth republic has been thriving. We came to congratulate Mr. President and also to thank him for making one of us the secretary to government. We came to assure him that he has our full support and prayers for the bold steps he has started to take, for his initiatives, and also let him know that this is beyond party politics. We are not talking about the project Nigeria. Therefore, all hands must be on deck to give Mr. President the needed support and encouragement to foster a better country.
Other governors at the meeting with President Tinubu were Niyi Adebayo, Ekiti State, Senator Orji Uzokalu, Abia State, Senator Sam Egu, Ebonyi State, Adamu Muazu, Bauchi State, Donald Diok, Cross River State, James Ibori, Delta State, amongst others.
Justice Hamza Muazu of the Federal High Court Federal Capital Territory has issued a one-week ultimatum to the Department of State Security Service (DSS) to either charge the detained suspended governor of the Central Bank of Nigeria, Godwin Emefiele, to court or set him free. The judge issued the order on Thursday while delivering ruling in a fundamental rights suit instituted against the DSS and others by Emefiele. Chung Anamel Joseph has the details.
Justice Muazu held that the DSS has power to carry out its constitutional duties to making arrests, detain, and ensuring prevention of internal crime, but however says such duties must be carried out within the ambit of the law. He added that the arrest power of DSS was not at large as the law stipulated conditions under which a Nigerian citizen must be held and for how long. Emefiele had dragged the Attorney General of the Federation AGF, Director General DSS and DSS, seeking enforcement of his fundamental human rights to freedom of movement and dignity to human life. In the suit instituted on his behalf by a senior advocate of Nigeria's son, Joseph Dauda, the suspended CBN governor had applied that his arrest and detention since June 10th without valid order of court be voided and set aside.
The continued detention is unlawful in the sense that no charge has been brought, and it is wrong for an organization of that nature to keep somebody in detention and be looking for evidence with which to charge him to court. So I think our judiciary is on the right track. 7 days have been given to the DSS to either charge him to court or release him on administrative bail. We expect him to be released on administrative bail today as we speak.
Emefiele demanded a compensation of 5 million naira as exemplary damages for his alleged unlawful detention. Chung Anamel Joseph, Global TV News.
A federal high court Abuja on Thursday dismissed a fundamental rights enforcement suit filed by Nnamdi Kanu, leader of the proscribed Indigenous People of Biafra IPOB, against the Department of State Services (DSS). Justice James Omotosho, in a judgment, held that Kanu's suit lacked merit and ought to be dismissed. In the suit, IPOB leader alleged that the DSS subjected him to a wide range of inhumane treatment, including denying him his right to wear any clothes of his choice, like the Igbo traditional attire called Isiagu, while in their facility or any time he appeared in court for his trial. He alleged that the security outfit, while allowing other inmates in their custody the freedom to choose and wear any clothes of their choice, he was restricted to wearing only single clothing. The applicant also accused the DSS of subjecting him to torture, breaching his right to dignity, among others. He therefore sought an order directing the respondent to allow him put on any clothing of his choice while in the facility or when appearing in public, among other reliefs. The Senate on Thursday began the screening of the Chief of Defense Staff, Major General Christopher Musa, and service chiefs including Major General Tarid Labaja, Chief of Army Staff, Rear Admiral Emmanuel Ogala, Chief of Naval Staff, and Air Vice Marshal Hassan Abubakar, Chief of Air Staff. The screening followed the submission of the substantive appointment of the CDS and the service chiefs by President Tinubu to the Senate on Tuesday. The Nigerian Senate has decried the bad state of the Benin-Auchi-Lokoja road linking the southeast and south-south states in the northern parts of the country. The upper chamber of the National Assembly urged President Bola Tinubu to a matter of urgency mobilize contractors to site and stem further deploration states of Benin-Auchi-Lokoja road. Kikelome Okere has the details.
The Senate's resolutions were contained in a motion sponsored by Senator Adams Oshimole, who said the deplorable state of Benin-Auchi-Lokoja Road has forced smaller vehicles to opt for longer alternative routes through Ondo State in order to avoid gridlocks caused by failed portion of the road.
Considering the current high cost of living that Nigerians are already grappling with, worried that the deplorable state of the road has caused damage to properties and led to the death of numerous innocent commuters through accidents, including the one that Mr. President had to issue a condolence message, people who were wasted on that road, I believe about 2 weeks ago. Also worried that the road passes through the sites of two major economic zones, two major cement factories in Okbela, in Edo State, which attracts heavy-duty vehicular movement 24 hours of the day throughout the year, making it very strategic route for the country's socio-economic development. Accordingly, our prayers that the Senate urge Mr. President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria to grant approval for the augmentation of costs on the road through the Federal Ministry of Works and Housing.
Other lawmakers in their contribution to the motion expressed concern at the slow pace on the road, adding that there are certain portions of the roads have failed completely and became a nightmare to motorists.
That particular road we are talking about is also the gateway to Delta State. It's a gateway to the northern part of Nigeria, going through Delta, through Auchi, down to Lokoja. So I think that it is something this House has to look at dispassionately and urge the various agencies to take up remedial action on that road.
And to say that, yes, indeed, I have seen the long queue of trailers on that road and shown on television, not just the man-hour wasted, but the adverse effect on the economy of the nation. And the situation is so bad that it is not something that you call on FEMA. FEMA cannot handle this. So the main contract is something that we must encourage. Thank you for bringing this to the fore. And I hope the Committee on Legislative Compliance will definitely move into action to ensure that the motion we have just taken and the prayers here approved by the Nigerian Senate are actually adhered to.
Consequently, the upper chamber asked the Ministry of Works and Housing to come up with a plan to settle all lingering issues bordering on the dualization of the road with contractors and also review the terms and conditions of the contract to meet current reality of inflation. Kike Lomo Okere, Global Television News, Abuja.
The Nigeria Labour Congress and the Trade Union Congress have railed against the 500 billion naira palliative proposed by President Bola Tinubu, stating that it is grossly inadequate to assuage the hardship confronting workers sequel to the fuel subsidy removal. They are demanding a 300% salary increase to enable workers to cope with the challenges imposed by the deteriorating economic situation that came with the removal of the controversial fuel subsidy. The president had announced the petrol subsidy removal during his inaugural address on May 29, 2023, in response to claims that the subsidy regime favored the rich more than the average Nigerians, among other reasons. Anxiety rises over President Bola Ahmed Tinubu's choice of ministerial appointment slot for Rivers State. Major stakeholders of the All Progressives Congress (APC) in the state says only efforts made by ex-governor Nyesom Wike during the February 25 presidential election is recognized, noting that others are trying to reap where they did not sow. The stakeholders, led by former chief of staff to the Rivers State government and stalwart of the party, Tony Okocha, urged Tinubu to concede the ministerial appointment of Rivers State to Wike, insisting that Wike was instrumental to Tinubu's victory. Judith Peters had the rest of the story.
Former Chief of Staff to the Rivers State government, Tony Okocha, urged the Rivers State's 2023 governorship candidate of the Social Democratic Party, SDP, Magnus Abe, to stop misleading Nigerians with claims that he worked for Tinubu's victory, saying he, Abe, and ex-governor of Rivers State, Chibuike Amechi, disappeared when they were more needed. He added that neither his former boss nor Magnus played any role whatsoever, saying the roles they played were the roles of
be accusing me of the same thing. Immediately after the 25th February election, that all the system in APC coalesced with us to deliver Tinubu in Rivers State. We felt that it was in keeping with the law of reciprocity. Good turn deserving another, bad turn deserving another. Not be so. That we are going to pay them back. And so on the March 18th governorship, we didn't even see Cole then as even our candidate because he voted against our presidential candidate. That which is good for the goose is good for the gander. So
speaking further, he accused Amechi of being instrumental in the loss of APC during the governorship election in the state.
We had a divided APC. One camp led by Amechi, who was the leader. And of course, his camp was stronger. The reason why he was stronger is that he, proximity to power. He was governor. He was super minister. He was DG. So what can you possibly do in this state as it pertains to APC that he will not take the center stage? What? Nothing. So his camp was stronger. Ours was not strong, but we were never ever to agree with them. On our own side of the APC, Magnus Abe was our leader. This is the polarization of the APC in Rivers State. It tells you, with 300 persons, I will win election in Rivers State. Who does that? That's one. The other one about anti-party. Wike's anti-party, if you call it anti-party, was legitimate and was official. It was public. He was not alone. You are aware of what they call the G5 governors. Please, I'm sure you know that there is none of those 5 states that the PDP won. I'm sure you know so.
As the jostle for ministerial list reaches the home stretch, there are strong indications that no fewer than 5 former governors will feature in the president's list of nominees that is heading to the Senate for approval between now and next week.
The Group Chief Executive Officer of the Nigerian National Petroleum Company Limited (NNPCL), Malam Melekeri, has called on stakeholders in the oil and gas industry to be on the lookout as the nation's oil company will be putting up some of its assets for sale. The CEO of NNPC Limited made the call at the ongoing Nigerian Oil and Gas Energy Week conference. Kikelomo Okere has the details.
Giving his speech on redefining Nigeria's energy landscape for sustainable energy future, the Group Chief Executive Officer of the Nigerian National Petroleum Company Limited, Melekeri, says, as the company guided under the regulation of the Companies and Allied Matter Act, the NNPC Limited will declare its shares to the public for acquisition soonest. The CEO explained that even though the company is government-owned, they still pay taxes, royalty, and also pay dividend shareholders.
The NLNG with the Trend 7 and potentially with Trend 8, doubling its capacity and looking at new opportunities. The market is looking for gas. I don't need to emphasize this. I don't need to repeat this. But everybody knows that the world is looking for gas. It won't vanish. 50 years' time to come, it will still be required. So we know this. So there must be gas into the export market short term. Many of the geopolitics, needless to mention what they are, but many of the geopolitical issues have now brought this balance that somebody must provide gas into the market, and we saw that as an opportunity.
The CEO also revealed that the nation's oil company is not being paid for the supply of gas and power, explaining that is the major reason why energy is not readily available and affordable to many citizens of the country.
That means that we'll follow through our initiative to see how we can deliver gas into the West African market all the way through 11 countries and potentially end up in Europe. And that's the market. And I can confirm to you that our government and all the governments in the West African sub-region are completely aligned on this. They are supporting it. They have signed most of the protocols that are required to deliver on this project, including the one that will potentially pass through the Trans-Nigerian pipeline into Chad, into Niger, and into in Europe too.
On subsidy removal, Kyari says the removal has brought about positive change in the sector by freeing up capital and powering the sustainable supply of energy. Kikelomo Okere, Global Television News, Abuja.
In the meantime, Permanent Secretary, Ministry of Petroleum Resources, Ambassador Gabriel Tanimu Aduda, says the drive towards energy transition, Nigeria and indeed Africa should define their own terms, pace, timing, and agenda of participation. Aduda made the call in Abuja at the ongoing Energy Week conference and exhibition. Kikelomo Okere reports that the Permanent Secretary who delivered the ministerial address spoke on plans and priorities for Nigeria's energy mix, noted that the renewable energy alternative options also come with inherent challenges as they do not come cheap.
Aduda posited that ascribing climate change as a rationale for reducing investment that will take the continent out of energy poverty is unwarranted and not fair for Africa barely contributes an insignificant percentage to the global emission crisis, adding that the African access to energy is tied to the optimization of its resources such as gas. Speaking further, Aduda says that the conversation around energy transition away from carbon fuel, as canvassed by leading Western economies, does not support African economic development and prosperity. He, however, stated that investments in infrastructure, technology, and capacity building are ways by which Nigeria can achieve a sustainable energy transition, reap the benefits of energy transition, and compete favorably with the rest of the world, using gas as the transition fuel.
And whether I will like it or not, I keep saying this at every opportunity I have. Fossil fuels will still be here with us for over 100 years to come. So the earlier we recognize that, the better for everyone. Yesterday, Daniel Smith, the premier of Alberta region in Canada, was speaking because he's always fighting and insists that what they have to develop as a region is fossil fuels. And that is what they need to grow their economy and what they have to grow their economy. So the world cannot muscle them into an agenda to run out of the resources that is available to them. to develop their people and grow their economy.
He further explains that federal government on its part is building policies around this path and creating other incentives for the sector, citing the Central Bank of Nigeria 250 billion naira intervention fund in the oil and gas industry, the midstream and downstream gas infrastructure fund established by the Petroleum Industry Act, and the Ajaokuta Kaduna Kano 614-kilometer long natural gas pipeline.
Africa is rich in natural resources. Natural gas is our forte at this point in time. So the whole talk about transition, we understand. We are not saying we do not want to go along with the world, but we think we should be able to do that at our own pace, at our own timing, draw up our own agenda as Africa, and not to be muscled up into rushing out of what God has given us as a natural resource, which is what we need to even prepare for and fund the transition itself. So a lot is on the table that we need to pay specific attention to in this industry.
Other speakers at the event are the Group Chief Executive Officer of the Nigerian Petroleum Company Limited, Mele Kyari, Secretary of the Organization of Petroleum Exporting Countries, OPEC, among others. Kikelom Okeri, Global Television News, Abuja.
And this is the midday news coming to you on Global Television from Nigeria's capital, Abuja. We're on Star Time Channel 276, and you can follow us across all our social media platforms at Global TV NG. When the News Express returns, CBN directs bank to pay diaspora remittances to beneficiaries in Nigeria. Do stay with us. Thank you very much for staying with us. The Central Bank of Nigeria, CBN, has directed international money transfer operators, also called IMTOs, to commence remittances payout in both Naira and foreign exchange to beneficiaries. It has also directed the investors and exporters windows foreign exchange rate to be used in determining the exchange rate for the Naira payouts. In the circular issued by the Director of Trade and Exchange at the Apex Bank, Dr. Ozemena Naji, dated 10 July 2023, the regulator said the decision was in furtherance to an earlier circular dated November 30, 2022, which provided the guidelines on the payout policy of diaspora remittances to beneficiaries. The November 30, 2022 circular introduced the payment of dollars to beneficiaries of diaspora remittances through the designated banks of their choices and with unrestricted access to their funds. Recall that CBN had mid-last month announced the unification of all segments of the Nigerian forex market by collapsing all windows in the investors and exporters known as I&E window. Data from the Nigeria Interbank Settlement System (NIBSS) PLC shows that the total number of issued bank verification numbers rose to 57.96 million as of July 3, 2023. This was as the Central Bank of Nigeria planned to close bank accounts without BVN. According to the NIBSS, the increasing incidence of compromise on conventional security systems, which include passwords and PIN, had increased the demand for greater security for access to sensitive personal information in the banking system. It stated that in recent times, biometric technologies have been used to analyze human characteristics as an enhanced form of authentication for real-time security processes.